What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another live Thursday show, and we are blessed to have the one and only Matt Sanford on here. Let's jump straight over to the interview screen. Matt, what is going on? We got the crowd rolling on already. How are you doing, brother?
Pretty good. How about you?
I cannot complain. We talked last month. We both had so much stuff going on about getting you on the live show, and we finally got it together for this month. Man, we're super glad to have you. And as I said, we've already got people. First question for you right away: when are you uploading again, man?
Yeah, well, I think now that the winter storms are over and the holidays are over, it should be in the next week or so. I was going to try to do a video today, but I just had too many trucks going on the dyno today to actually make a video.
What, you got any topics in the works that you're going to be putting out next? A little spoiler action you can give the guys?
I mean, not really. It just comes down to I've done some Gen 5, done some Gen 4, so I think I owe the guys a Gen 3 video of, Truck Norris or whatever kind of camshaft that everybody else wants to run.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I've got a couple of those going through right now myself. Uh, Wait a second, let me double check. It says that I'm showing. No, I think we're good on volume. If anything's blown out, if I'm too loud, Sanford's too loud, let me know. I'm doing this on the fly. Oh, Silver Surfer 77's in here. What's
Oh,
going on,
nice.
brother? Have you seen some of his stuff?
Oh yeah, I love his videos.
Yeah, he's a little bit too smart for my good. He's going. Well, I'm getting him on the show here soon.
Oh, that's awesome.
So, we did an episode last year, and it's time we do another catch up and stuff like that. But other than that, just everybody's giving a lot of good shout outs. Question for you: have you dabbled on Global B much?
I have.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Did you do Dodge neural network stuff before you started getting into Global B, or are you coming to it fresh?
Yeah, no, I did Dodge.
I figured as much. It have you ran into any kind of wonky, crazy stuff that you
Oh,
really seen?
yes. So the biggest issue that we're having right now is Global B 6.2 and L8T trucks. There is apparently a hidden modifier for rail pressure.
Oh,
So
really?
yeah, and to the point where we've had some guys, stock rail pressure tables to where once you've tuned the vehicle, say it's got a cam or a Whipple or whatever,
Right.
that it's almost like a multiplier of a 2.0 multiplier sometimes. So we're seeing these trucks try to fire off with 3,500 psi rail, and they won't even start. They just lock the injectors up.
Right.
So we're having to cut these tables sometimes in half, sometimes even more than that to get them to function. So I've got the guys at HP Tuners. They're going to try to find what table we're missing. It seems like it's not there on the 5.3s, but it's definitely there on the 6.2 and the L8T trucks.
That's very interesting that it wouldn't be present on the 5.3s.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, because I mean, as far as I can tell, you probably run the same OS on both of them and be fine. But
Yeah.
I mean, have you tried flashing a factory 5.3 into a 6.2 tune?
Absolutely not.
Yeah,
I am
well,
not going to try to do any operating system stuff with Global B.
isn't that the truth?
I'm just not that guy, man.
Dude, well, and even whenever because I've got the 5.3 with the Whipple on it, and whenever I got that one unlocked, they sent it to me. I plugged it in. It didn't have anything on it. And
Yeah.
they had to end up building a new file for it. And so, as far as HB Tuners is concerned, my truck doesn't even have a VIN, number on it. It just
Yeah.
shows up as 111. But
Yeah.
it's been interesting to see the progression on Global B, and it's really separating the men from the boys. Gen 5 kind of did that anyways
It
with the
did.
virtual torque system, but Global B is really the next. Like, there's going to be a lot of guys out there that learned that they thought they were tuners, but they're no
Yeah.
longer.
Well, when we were messing with the giveaway truck, Cletus's giveaway truck, in the episode where we were trying to run nines, the truck would just keep cutting out.
Yeah,
And that truck, that operating system, it refuses to go over like 17 and a half megapascal.
okay.
If you try to go anything above that, it literally will just shut the truck down.
Hmm.
And so that was a struggle because when we need the fuel, so I need the rail pressure. We had the
Right.
XDI, I think they were the 65 or 60% overs or 65% overs or whatever. So I know how much injector I have. And so it sucks to, have a pump to where, I'd like to at least have given it, 20 megapascal, 21 megapascal, something like that. But as soon as it would go over 17 and a half, it just shut the truck down. And of course you got, Cletus is rushing you. Hey, we've got to run nines today.
Right.
The video is going to be viewed by 1 million plus people. And so you've got all the pressure. And of course, he loves to expose it. So if you're struggling with something, he wants to have camera in your face.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't get a time to actually like calm down and think about this thing. It's nope, we got to figure this out on the fly.
Yeah, and that's the
So
last thing as a tuner that we want is somebody over our shoulders whenever we're trying to figure out something that's new. You know, there's only been so many people that's really dove into this, and even having that Dodge background of knowing how the neural network works only takes you so far because of the implementation on GM and all the extra stuff that we've got going on over there. I could see how it would be a little bit hair raising at times.
yeah, and the thing that sucks is, of course, because nobody had really done it, there's nobody to call.
Right.
I'm messaging Justin Burt and James Short. I'm just trying to ask anybody, like, hey, give me some help, and nobody. They were like, I don't know. And so then they passed me along. But see, the thing is, the Global V truck operating system seems very different than the C8
Yes, it
or
does.
the
CCSV or
CT5 or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, those aren't hard at all. It seems like something that comes with an LT4 super easy. But truck operating systems are being a pain in the ass right now.
Yeah, and I talked with Mike Carnahan and Brandon Lee in depth about that, because that was one of the first things whenever I started getting into it. Brandon was like, dude, the trucks are a pain. Like Corvettes and the CT5s, like those things, pretty easy. They fall in line fairly nice, but it's just like everything else. We'll figure it out, and we'll kind of find shortcuts along the way and refine a process, and so.
Yeah, well, see, what's throwing me for a loop is, I don't know if you've come across this yet, but the 24 trucks have wide bands. 23 trucks don't.
Right.
So the 24 trucks are being what's a pain in my ass right now. The 23 trucks seem to be fine. So I think it's going to have to be a year specific, OS specific for 5.3, whatever, that you're going to have to find these little quirks on. And you're just going to have basically a notebook saying, hey, if I've got this year of this operating system, this is how it acts.
Right, exactly. Well, and we're still early. As I said, there's plenty of tables that will probably roll out in the next year or two. We've seen that in the past, and that's kind of what I tell everybody is, like, if you're on third, fourth gen, you don't need to worry about running beta, but if you're on Global B or even fifth gen, it's worthwhile to grab the beta, because it may open up a table that we haven't had access to in the past, that somebody finally smarter than me figured out, hey, this is doing something weird. There's got to be something in there going in.
Yeah. Well, of course, even right now, too, on Gen 5, I mean, I don't think the regular VCM suite, I don't think you can modify, I think it's virtual torque. It's either virtual torque or virtual V. I think it's virtual torque.
But you have the Global B?
No, on just regular Gen 5.
Oh, on the non-beta version.
Right. So
yeah.
the regular VCM suite, for whatever reason, that's supposed to be the stable version, but you can't even modify virtual torque on it.
Yeah. In fact, it was a big head scratcher. I had a buddy of mine down in Houston email me. He's like, why is my virtual torque locked out? And I'm like, what the hell are you even talking about?
Yeah.
And sure enough, I was like, are you on the latest beta? Well, no, I'm on alpha. And I was like, no, our public release, stable. Yeah. And I was like, dude, grab the beta. Like, the only reason that you should probably be on the stable release is to access the one table that everybody doesn't talk about.
Right.
Silver Surfer's going on. Let's see. Sounds like the Gen 4 boost limit. You'll need an XDF. Yeah. Oh, he's just posting all the Gen 4 stuff that they had to do. And then Mike's Garage says it brought that up a few months ago also. Well, sorry I'm late to the party. You may have brought it up here, but hell, I didn't have an answer. So, any wild stuff other than obviously the giveaway truck have you messed with in the last 6 months or so?
Not really. I mean, just obviously the normal, lot of swaps. Of course, the mini TRX. Usually the wild stuff belongs to Cletus.
Right.
Otherwise, it's usually I'm doing Truck Norris at cams, or whatever the latest and greatest GPI cam is in a 5th gen Camaro, or it's usually just the quick and easy stuff.
Yeah, well, good. So how did you get into tuning?
Well, it all started back, dude, in high school. I had like I think it was a 2000 or 2001 Dodge Ram, like Magnum 360, and we had super chips and Hypertech and all that stuff, and SCT come out with the Advantage software, and I just can't leave it good enough alone, so I just go ahead on and dive into the software, and I don't know how I didn't blow that motor up. I mean, I was listening to timing numbers from guys with like small block Fords, and just Yeah, it was bad.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and
But
that's exactly it. Because I came from the import world, then came into the domestic world, and I remember the one of the first LSs I was working on. My stepdad, who's an old racer, he's like, "Oh, throw 40 degrees at that thing," and I'm like, that does not seem right." He goes, "No, he'll love it." And
yeah,
so, luckily I didn't have to learn the hard way on that one, but I have learned the hard way on a couple other things. So,
yeah. But no, so started off on that, and then got into the diesel stuff. I was actually buying and selling a lot of diesels, and obviously our diesels needed some tuning. It's just one of those things. Another thing that we don't talk about, but
right.
and it was so expensive for me to get it done. So I was like, I can figure this out. So I dove into EFI Live and figured that one out, and then started to make a bunch of money diesel tuning, but I didn't really know so much about gas. And so I was paying local tuners around here to tune my race cars. And it just got to the point where I'm like, man, these guys are terrible. I'm just going to do it on my own. And then it snowballed into, my buddies saying, hey, tune my car. Hey, tune my car. And then it turned into a profession. So,
Well, and for every good tuner out there, there's probably about 50 to 100 bad tuners, unfortunately. Uh, and the best thing that we can do is just educate people and hopefully get people to dive into it, and so I really like your approach in your videos. I was watching one of them you did the other day with the Corvette that had the brake lines that were too short.
oh, yeah.
And just even touching on that, I was like, man, that's great. He's going through the process of how he actually does something. It's good to see that. Because obviously I don't do any dyno stuff. All of my stuff is roadside. So it's really awesome because there's other guys out there without naming names that show dyno tuning, but they're not worth really watching because there's no information there. And to
Yeah.
see you go through that process from start to finish, it's like, man, this is what we need is more guys like this out here putting this kind of content out. And either convincing people, giving them the confidence to do it, or, hey, this isn't something that I feel comfortable doing because now that I've been educated in it, I know it's beyond me, but maybe help them find somebody that can, help them out. And so it's all around better for the industry. We faced a lot of issues here lately, and it's kind of hard. I won't get into the EPA BS on the stream, but
Yeah.
I know that you probably fear that door knock as much as I do every once in a while and try and keep everything above board.
Well, no, I got the letter in 2011,
Did you?
and so I had to calm down on the diesel stuff.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
and so and that's basically I swore off diesel once they started getting hot and heavy about 4 years ago. I was like, I'm just not going to put any content out on diesel. It's not worth it.
yeah.
So, but so what are you working at a shop or are you freelance right now?
No, I freelance and then I rent a buddy of mine's dyno.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's we got a couple dynos around here, and I've struck up conversations, but honestly, I don't know. I love the dyno for being able to fill out your volumetric efficiency and stuff. Being able to adjust load is great, and I think it's a great tool. But I think it's because my ADD. I have a hard time picturing myself sitting in one place for 4 hours on a keyboard trying to get the
Yeah.
most out of my money.
Yeah. Well, I mean, man, honestly, to roll through a lot of these cars quickly, it comes down to I tune a lot of the same combinations. So I can usually start with a good VE table, good math curve. I try to label all my tunes to where I know if it's got a rotofab or a JLT or whatever. And so I can build that up. And then when I'm doing it just by myself when I'm not filming, a lot of the times I'll just take it out on the street right then and there, drive it for 45 minutes to an hour, because the worst part about dyno tuning is getting it strapped down to the dyno and then finding the mechanical problem.
Right. Yeah.
So I try to go give it a shakedown. Now, I personally don't go wide open throttle or anything on. I'm literally just driving around like normal on the street. But at least that way I've got the tune to where it's daily driver friendly.
Right.
So then when I go up on the dyno, if something, keeps me from finishing up the wide open throttle tuning, I can at least give the customer their car and say, hey, you can at least drive on it like this. When you got to sort through these problems and work it out that way. So I try to stay off the dyno as much as possible now. But now, obviously, if I have a new combination come in, like today I was tuning an 3 Silverado, but my buddy Nate, Nate, Dr. Tunamal,
Okay,
he's
yeah.
got NK Performance, and he's got this cam called a ZTG cam, and it's kind of like, it's a really rowdy truck camshaft. And I just hadn't done a V table on one of those yet. So I was like, well, cool. I can strap this truck down and sweep through and have a good base. So that way, if you guys want to buy that cam, like we got you covered on the V table now.
Yeah. And that's great. It brings forth a great point, and it's kind of the approach that I do even whenever I'm going through. There's always a point where I'll tell my customer, I'm like, hey, this is a good snapshot, this tune right here. If anywhere during this process you're just needing to get around, you can throw this one in. Just don't do any wide open throttle pulls on it. It's not a final by any means, but this is one I feel comfortable with you driving on whenever we're not doing data logging. And that's always kind of been the complaints about dynos is people get so obsessed with the power number. And it's like, just because this thing generates a big number doesn't mean that you're going to be able to park it properly because it's bucking and fighting you because it doesn't have any parking lot manners. And it's hard to really duplicate that on a dyno,
Yeah.
But it definitely, as said, serves a purpose and is a great tool. And they seem to be getting cheaper. I mean, I didn't make it to PRI this year, but I was talking to, who's the guys from Australia with the hub dynos?
Oh, mainline.
Like, you can get mainline 1500 for like 30,000 delivered now, which sounds expensive, but if you can keep it busy, it'd pay for itself pretty quick.
Well, here's the crazy part about mainline is there is a dyno company in the U.S. that has supposedly they have patents that mainline infringes on.
Oh.
So then mainline basically, from what I've been told, they basically pay a legal fee to be able to sell that dyno here.
Okay.
And it's something that a specific dyno company patented after everybody's used it, kind of thing.
Right. Saw that it hadn't been filed yet.
Right.
Kenneth Reed asks, where in Tennessee you at, Matt?
Nashville.
Yeah. Let me see. Let's see if we missed anything else. I've just been talking with you. We had a couple questions on the SS3, and Silver Surfer, of course, jumped in and said it definitely needs a converter. But other than that, he said, what's the drivability like on that?
That's actually my favorite cam.
Is it?
Like when it comes to LS3, that's a good camshaft.
I'll have to take a look at it. I'm not a big camshaft guy. Whenever I tune an engine as an air pump, and so I don't really look at heads, cams, all that stuff. I just look at its ability to breathe.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's still just fuel, air, spark most of the time. They just added stuff like torque controls in to make it more complicated. But let's see if I've missed anything else. ICT Car Guy says, what are we going to do about these Coyote F-150 regular cab short beds?
Nothing. Buy one. Join the group.
Join the group.
I mean, there's nothing we can do to compete with them in the LS world, really.
It's a shame. Do they even sell a regular cab short bed anymore?
GM?
Yeah.
They do, but it's the 4-cylinder turbo.
Oh, okay. So you can't even option a 5.3 in it anymore.
Nope.
Well, I'm surprised that Dodge doesn't actually make a regular cab, but
I don't know why they dropped them. Like, that's just, I mean, the sport truck thing was always single cab short bed, and I feel like everybody loves single cab short beds. I could maybe see them not offering it in like, a 6.2 with 4-wheel drive or something, but at least give us something.
Yeah. I say, I mean, you can have plenty of fun with a regular cab short bed with a 5.3 in it, especially if you start throwing some boost at it.
Yeah.
As said, they're not that expensive, and I don't know. Ford, as much as I hate to say it, congratulations, you're really winning that battle.
Yeah.
PNW says, I would really like to see Matt move forward with the videos of sending in submissions of personal tunes to be picked apart in a video for all to see. Listen, that takes a lot of time, PNW. I will tell you that. He said, I'd gladly send in my novice tunes to be picked apart.
Well, so here, that was an idea from a little ways back, but here's the thing is people get their feelings hurt entirely too easy. And I am known for pissing people off, and I don't care. I mean, I try to shoot everybody straight, be blunt with them. I'm not calling them names or anything. I'm just like, hey, like, this is not the right way of doing it, or hey, I'm not going to tune your combo. Like, I don't know if you've seen on my website, but if somebody has an aftermarket drive-by cable throttle body,
Oh yeah.
it literally says I don't do this, but just in case they don't read, I have a section where it adds $800 to the price.
Oh, for
If
an
they
X
do.
link.
Yeah.
I gotta start doing that. I literally got one last week, and he sent me the mods list, and I was like, oh god. And it was he went from a 3-bolt to a 4-bolt, so the intake manifold he couldn't even go back to, and I'm just like, I don't know what to do,
Yeah.
because these things do not work.
Well, and that's what I do is I just email them like, hey, I'm probably not going to be able to get it anywhere close to perfect. I'll gladly send you a refund right now.
Yeah.
And then they'll basically beg me. And then they get mad whenever I told them the truth. I told them it probably wasn't gonna be perfect, and then it's not perfect. They'll send me an email. Hey, I've got to crack the throttle open, for cold start. And it's like, okay, so here, let me explain to this. On stock ECU, we're limited to 0.8 volts, for idle routine. So if we set the blade angle up to where it will actually cold start, it won't want to idle routine correctly. So then you've got to make sure that you can clock your TPS. Like, it's just.
Right.
And then if you do get one that you can clock the TPS on it, usually the idle steps are down to 0 by like
Exactly.
160 degrees, and then it's wandering a little bit, and it's just not worth it.
Yeah, it really isn't, and I mean, maybe I should change the name of this live stream to Matt and Kyle said no more X links.
Man, the X links, I'll tell you, when they work good.
Yeah.
I have zero problems with it, but I'm at probably a 50% success rate at this point.
I would say that I don't even know if I've hit 50%, but I've not had to deal with a lot of them up to this point. I want to say maybe only one or two that I've done. I've been able to get to a point where I'd say it's a good tune.
Yeah.
And the rest of them, even the clients, like, dude, you want me to take this thing off? And I'm like, please, if you have the ability, like, trust me, you're probably not picking up much on that side. Like, if you haven't done a crazy cam with good heads and free flowing exhaust, your intake manifold and your throttle body's not going to be your restriction on the intake. There's so many other parts in there that got to have the ability to breathe before we start worrying about that stuff. And
yeah.
And
well, one thing I'll tell you on the X-Link, and I'm not sure exactly what OSs it is, but there's some OSs to where when you do the ETC scaler, you may be at like a 0.16 or a point. I think they say 1.192 or something in their instructions. I will let you guys know that I think most 04, 05s, and some 06 operating systems, you have to go the opposite direction. So you actually make it like 0.3.
Okay.
And then all of a sudden everything lines up and it works good.
Huh.
So if you ever run into that, if you just look at your idle desired, air mass versus dynamic, if you notice that when you set it to the 0.192 or whatever they call for, that it's even worse, seriously, just take it the opposite direction. It'll fix it.
That's good to know. I'll have to keep that in mind, and maybe I'll save this video for myself so I can come back and reference it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and as I said, it's hard. I've tried to do tune reviews. And part of it is we just get too many. If we open that floodgate up, the next thing you know, you've got hundreds of people wanting you to take a look at stuff, and then it's I try to do it, but I don't do it as much as everybody would like me to, because it does take a lot of time.
Yeah, well, see, I offer that on the website, but basically I break it down to the customers is they can send me their tune, but it's hard to see some of the stuff. If you just send me a tune, it's hard for me to catch it.
Right.
So I specifically ask them first, like, hey, is there drivability issues? Is there something that you need to look at to try to address? Because, if I try to compare it to one of my VE tables where I've smoke tested the intake and I know everything's good and I know the injectors are good at everything, and theirs is way off in left field, we got to figure out why is it way off in left field. So a lot of the times when I get guys asking for me to rate their tune, we end up resolving like a misfire or something like that, and we don't even touch the tune. It's like the tune is not the problem; it's you got other mechanical issues.
Right. Yeah, and that's a great point. Like it's crazy. I tell people, I was like, listen, you're the one that's driving that. You have stuff. I can scrub through this data, but I'm not going to be able to catch everything. Yeah. So if you run into something, and I was dealing with a cold start or actually just a first start today, and I was like, tell me what your nose says, because I'm looking at the sensor data here, and it's not matching up to where we're at as far as fuel delivery. And got to the point I was like, are your eyes burning? Because this thing should be showing enough fuel that it should be flooded out. And I was like, now it's time to go back and start looking at mechanical issues. Something else is going on,
Yeah.
and you can't always catch that just from a data log.
No.
And then on top of it, somebody sends you a tune. Hell, even if you open up a compare file to a stock, sometimes there might be 150 tables for whatever reason edited, and it's like, okay, slow down. You got off course here somewhere.
Yeah.
It doesn't require this much.
Well, so here, this is the biggest issue I see with people tuning nowadays is they think the more things they change, it justifies their pay. So like I had a customer from a country called Oman, which I didn't even know that was a country that existed, but apparently it's over in the Middle East. And he wanted me to tune basically a bolt-on truck. And so I did a basic tune, basically what I would consider like optimized stock. And he was like, well, you left this alone and you left this alone. I'm like, yeah, because it doesn't need it. Like it's a stock truck. Like GM knew what they were doing. So we're going to try to optimize shift points and just the basic stuff, but I'm not going to throw 6 degrees more timing at it and lean the thing out. Like it doesn't need it. I was like, literally, like if you put this truck on the dyno, you can put a couple degrees in it and lean it out. You'll probably see the numbers probably be within 2 or 3 horsepower of itself. But on my tune, it will function as a normal truck, can run on high low octane like it's supposed to. And on your tune, it's going to ping itself to the point where it needs pistons.
And it's always fun to kind of go through there and play the what in the hell were you thinking game. Like, I saw a table the other day that, like, I don't even know why the hell it was ever touched in the first place. And it's just crazy whenever that thing you open up a compare file and it just lights up green because every table's been, jacked with or whatever. It's like, yeah. And sometimes it's just better to scrap it and start over from scratch, right?
Yeah.
What am I missing here? Oh, thanks, Tyler. Tyler says, well, I'll tell you this much. You can take my name out of there. It's Matt, Justin, and Brandon are the best tuners. I'm just a teacher.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's essentially all I am, man. Here's the craziest thing about having the best tuner of anything. I'll tell you right now, if you get on Facebook pages and you look on the HP Tuners help and info, whatever, you'll see these tuners posting up these screenshots of these like timing tables where it looks like a freaking Excite Bike track or, like that. They'll post that stuff and everybody just hates on them. I will tell you right now, the fastest tuners in the world tune like Legos.
Yeah.
And I don't know why. And it looks awful. But you know what? If that car runs a 360 in the 8th mile, I can't say anything.
Right.
Like,
right. Well, and it's, there is more than one way to skin a cat. And that's the thing is like, there's multiple ways that you can accomplish, especially in some of these more complicated ones. There's side paths that you can go around and get a well-running vehicle. 9 out of 10 other tuners might look at and say, you did this wrong. But if it's putting down the numbers, like, who are you to say that?
Right. So that's where it's at now. So my biggest thing is I want to educate people so they don't get taken advantage of. And that's been the biggest issue. And I've got a lot of tuners. I've got a lot of tuner love. I would say probably 80% of the tuners out there have messaged me or, whatever, just, being appreciative. Hell, I've got guys that are asking me advice almost every day. But then you've got the self-proclaimed best tuners in the world, and they just get pissed because you're giving out their secrets, and then they try to basically devalue you because they're the holy ghost of tuning, and it's like, man, I'm just whatever.
Yeah, we've got our own Voldemort on this page. His name is Greg Banish. We don't talk about him around here.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
That dude, he went off years ago on something. I was like, bro, the data doesn't lie. I'm sitting here showing you the data. And he did his token response. Well, if you want to know how to do it, buy my course. And I'm like, bro, just if you're telling me it's wrong, tell me how it's wrong.
Yeah.
Well, it's wrong. That's what I'm going to say. And I was like, no, it's not wrong. Don't listen.
Well, here's the biggest thing is you have to remember that a lot of guys tune off of theory, and then you have a lot of guys that'll just give it what it wants and be done with it. So the best thing you could be is to be the guy in the middle that tries to figure out what you're doing, but still ultimately you may have to make some stuff not happy. Like, there's certain vehicles. I've got a 2010, I think, Sierra right now that when it does not like the injectors being scaled whatsoever. I don't know what the deal is with this operating system. And I seem to have issues with 2010 model vehicles. It's like there's something in the 2010 truck OS that I don't know if something's disappeared and I forgot about it or what, but man, this truck, it did not want to run right with injector scaled. And that's just using the normal, double stoic half injector flow
Right.
rate and then doing the percentage to the IVT terms. Like, it's pretty basic stuff. But so the injector data to me, of course, it's not like some people where it'll just flatline it, 127 or
like
whatever, but
yeah.
it doesn't look as good as what I want it to look like. But it's because that's just what the truck wanted, know? And so I still would like to develop that theory, as to why, but it is what it is.
P&W says, Matt, thanks for putting out the link to the Blue Cat transmission configurator. How is that thing still alive?
Dude, that thing,
I'm glad it is, but
I love that software. And I wish Blue Cat, I don't know if y'all see, that's the thing is, you got Greg Banish, that he is a good tuner. Now, I don't know if he's good in person, on live vehicles as good as he is.
He's a calibrator.
Right.
And you can tell he's a calibrator.
But man, Blue Cat is a tuner.
Yeah.
Just like Dave Steck is a tuner.
Yeah.
Like, there's these guys that just can tune. And Blue Cat, I wish he would update the software to where we can get good, 8-speed and 10-speed
extract
stuff.
the data out.
But dude, I would pay that man royalties for using that Blue Cat. So I use it almost every single day.
You know what? I was in the mix whenever he created the first VVE calculator. Whenever that first rolled out, I had an 08 LS3 Corvette, and so we just had the math. It wasn't integrated into the editor yet, and as far as I know, it just looks like HP Tuners probably ripped him off, reverse engineered his software, because I'm sure he didn't, all that stuff was real simple, like C-based programs and stuff. So I'm sure it was fairly easy, but man, he was so helpful back then. And that's back whenever everybody was just jacking the PE tables up for mods and stuff because nobody knew what to do. And he came out, and to this day, I remember that VVE software being so good because it had the rezoning stuff built into it, kind of like EFI Live does.
Yeah.
And it never made its way into the editor. And I'm like, and that's one of the things I always ask. I was like, when are you going to bring in the rest of this stuff? Like, get a hold of them, pay them a licensing fee,
Yeah. Well, I mean, the biggest issue with the VVE editor is it really doesn't work for VVT correctly.
Right.
You can get it good on the V8 stuff, but man, I've tuned some of those like LNF cars.
Right.
And you get into cams where they're swinging, 30, 40 degrees on both intake and exhaust.
Yeah.
It don't work. But hey, actually, you brought up a good point though, of him designing this software. So we got Silver Surfer that's watching this right now.
Yeah.
Silver Surfer, this is what I'm asking you to do. Make a transmission shift point calculator. Take Blue Cat as an example, but make it better and update it. And charge for it.
Charge for it. Yes.
Charge people $100 download or whatever. Just charge for it. But we need a good shift point calculator.
Yeah. Figure out a way that you can keep people from just pirating the ever-loving shit out of it, or else we'll just have one person buy it and throw it on Facebook or a forum somewhere. Like, if that would be amazing, because I hate messing with transmissions. If I can stay away from them as much as possible, I do. I'll go in and update stuff for converters and stuff like that, but other than that, it's too easy to burn up these factory transmissions. Even people that run these 6L80s are like, do this, do that. So I'm like, listen, if you pull too much of the torque control out of the transmission side, this thing will smoke clutches. Oh, it's built. And I was like, I don't care. It's going to happen.
Well, here's the problem with the 6L80 stuff. And I think Justin White may have touched on this in one of his podcasts. Guys are putting in these aftermarket clutches on 6L80s. Those transmissions are designed to slip into gear.
Right.
It's a clutch on clutch design. It's how it's supposed to act. You've got these guys putting in these crazy ass aggressive clutches, and the transmission can no longer react how it wants to react.
Yeah.
So then you end up with clutch bind, and then you're constantly having to deal with oncoming, offgoing preset pressures to the point to where, I mean, some guys are just turning off adaptives and they're just making it work, and then it's they're calling it good. But I mean, a 6L80, a factory rebuilt 6L80 or a factory 6L80 will take a lot. Once you get Joe Blow's garage that put in some, red clutches from Ray Bessis or whatever, we just throw it out the window.
Yeah, it's done.
You got to custom tune every transmission that's like that at that point.
Well, and that's how the other thing I told people, I was like, I can remember back in the mid 2000s, whenever the 6L80 came out, there was dudes in Australia running in the 9s on factory ones without changing any of the tune on it. You know, they were doing what was needed for a converter, but other than that, they weren't touching any of the transmission torque stuff. They were letting it do the timing pull like it needed to keep it from, you know, grenading itself. And it was like, why is everybody? And part of it is, oh, I want to feel it shift. And it's like, it's not designed to do that. Like, that's not what this is. You want that? Go get yourself a manual valve body TH400 or something. You know?
Yeah. Well, and one thing is you can make it to where you feel the shifts and it pull timing at the same time. Like it's just a balance of shift speed,
Right.
and you know, so it's as long as your airflow model is good. That's where people make the mistakes. Is you've got all these guys where the VVE table is the stock, and then you know they're raping the injector data.
MAF only.
Yeah, and then they'll get on the the forums and tell you, oh, well, just go to your EQ ratio torque model and do a multiplier of 1.3. Why? If we had a correct airflow model, we don't have to touch that.
Yeah, and God, I probably harp on that at least once a month. It's like, you can't do a MAF only because of the way that the torque is calculated. It needs both airflow models to be dialed in, so you have a good dynamic airflow. Without that, nothing really works right. The whole ECU is built around those things, and you look at everything else that's downstream of that is basically constants in this math formula. It's airflow that is our variable that we have to have, and if that's not dialed in right, how do you expect anything else to work right? And so it's getting there though. The I can see the light at the end of the tunnel. There's guys like you out there sharing your knowledge with the world. We appreciate that. And are you in a rush? You got a couple more minutes to stick around?
No, I'm good. Yeah,
okay.
I can chill.
We got almost 80 people in here, and so we just hit 80. So apparently they're finding you interesting. They don't find me interesting.
They just know I'll talk shit.
Yeah, well, hey, it's wherever it takes. I actually messaged the social media manager the other day for HB Tuners, and I was like, I may have said something somewhere. She's like, send it to me. I was like, is this all right? She goes, oh, no, that's all right. And I was like, okay, I just want to make sure I didn't cross a line over here because...
Oh, that's fine.
I've got to catch myself on there because sometimes somebody will spout off and I'm like, come on, bro, you just sound like an idiot.
Yeah, well, see, earlier in last year, some of the guys that are in here probably saw them, but I used to do live streams late at night. And I'd grab a beer or whatever, and we just, I mean, dude, I would have guys stay up with me till like 3 o'clock in the morning, and we're literally just talking over a live stream and just getting into people, talking about all the things that make me mad.
Yep. Yeah. I had to put my soapbox away because I was pulling it out a little bit too often there for a while. Especially every time Holly comes up, because I know there's a lot of Holly lovers out there. I personally hate Holly EFI. Sorry. I think they're junk. I think there's better solutions out there.
Here's the thing about Holly. Holly is a dumb ECU that's designed to control dumb race motors. It's the same thing as Fuel Tech.
Right.
Holly could make it better, but I think Holly is in the market for selling parts, not making their parts better, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I agree.
And that's, I mean, I don't blame them. I mean, I'm glad they're here. Anybody that's in the aftermarket for making parts, I'm glad they're making parts. It's just, Holly itself, like I was working with my buddy Chase the other night, and he put a Sniper 2 on his Dodge, and it literally was fried right out of the box.
I can believe it. I've had that happen with the Sniper 1, and even then I did a Sniper 2 after that, and in hindsight I was like, for the cost, I should have just gone over to port injection ECU. But and it serves a purpose. I think there's a niche market out there. It's great if you're swapping an LS into your C10 and you're keeping it kind of a cookie cutter design that's been 1,000 times. It works for that. But honestly, a lot of my gripes are on the software side. I've had issues with their wideband controller on the hardware level on a lot of stuff. And I've asked multiple times, I'm like, I've got a spare analog input. Why don't you just let me use an external wideband and then reference that for closed loop operations? And to me, that's like, that should have been thought of from day one, like whenever they were designing it.
Yeah, well, that's what a lot of manufacturers do. I mean, Haltech does that, AEM does that. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I agree. My biggest issue is a lot of the drive-by-wire stuff. Like, so when you do a TPS auto set with drive-by-wire on Holly, it doesn't understand it understands the resting position of the throttle body, but it doesn't fully close.
Right.
So 1% TPS is actually 1% past its resting point. So it's got all this airflow. So, but it can't physically close it up anymore. And I feel like that's a software thing.
Yeah.
You know, granted, I'm not a software guy, but just a lot of this stuff, I feel like it could be just software based. You know, like your startup enrichment. Can we not just have a coolant temp?
Right.
You know,
Right. Why do we have to have 3 tables on that?
Yeah, well, you got prime pulse, and prime pulse is one number, you know. So whether you make it 100% or 150% or whatever, that's great. Except for, you know, that prime pulse may only work good when it's hot, or it may only work good when it's cold,
Right.
or you know, you got to pick your battle there. It's like if you literally just gave me a 1D table with coolant temp as the axis, we'd be solid.
Yeah, exactly, and I think that they have the issue of once something passes what they consider done, man, they don't even look at it anymore. Put it on the shelf and just sell it. And as long as nobody's, you know, complaining like the Sniper ones, and even then they brushed under the rug a lot of the stuff that was going on with the first generation snipers. But I've called their tech support before because I had a very specific question with a coil driver running a wasted spark setup, and literally, I could hear the guy opening the manual and reading from a page, and I had it pulled up on the PDF, and he's just verbatim reading it. I was like, listen, bro, I've read this thing cover to cover probably 16 times. There ain't a damn thing in there about that. We're going to probably have to get an engineer involved. Oh, well, I don't know about it. I'm like, I'll jump on the forums and see if Danny's got an answer.
Yeah.
Listen, we're going to wrap up, everybody. Would you be willing to come back on sometime?
Sure, I don't care.
Man, love having guests on here, and I've told the crowd that this year we're going to try and jam pack as many guests in here. So maybe here in a couple months, I'll reach out to you again. We'll get you back on, and
That works. I mean, we could bring on Dr. Tunemal.
Yeah, that'd be great. That'd be great. Yeah. So we can just maybe we set that up where we get all 3 of us and we do like an hour-long stream and just kind of have one of those sit back, crack a beer, and BS kind of nights.
Well, so the only issue is when Tunemal starts drinking one drink, it doesn't stop there. And then I'm having like carry him home. So you and I can drink the beers and he can just have a water or something.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Listen, Matt, I appreciate it, man. Keep up the great work out there. The content's amazing that you've been putting out. Very educational, well shot. I mean, you've got great audio, and so like everything, just real professional. I love what you're doing. Keep it up, and
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Once again, thanks for stopping by. Listen, everybody, thanks for stopping by for another Thursday night live show. Keep your eyes peeled for next Thursday. As I said, Matt's going to come back at some point in time. I've got some other guests lined up. You'll have to stay tuned for all that jazz. But you know the drill. Thanks for stopping by the garage. Remember, ABT, always be tuning.